Welcome, welcome to April's Say Yes Summit. I am so delighted to see all of your beautiful faces. Thank you for being here. I am so delighted to have these conversations. As you know, I am completely obsessed with the podcast. I'm obsessed with all of these delicious conversations that I get to have. Thursdays are my favorite day, but also Tuesday is my favorite day, and Wednesday is my favorite day, and Friday is my favorite day. I'm just feeling so centered and present and in alignment with where I should be, that it's a really beautiful feeling. It's not something that has been my practice for very long, so it's feeling like a new pair of jeans or something. Like, I'm still excited about it because it's feeling not novel, but new. And I love, oh, thank you, Mo. You're so sweet. Um, I love that it was a decision to have this experience that I'm having was a decision that I made. I had every opportunity to lobby for my limitations and to give excuses or reasons. I wouldn't even call them excuses because they were valid reasons that anyone would agree with me about, of why I can't have the life that I desire and why that's so sad and unfair. And so it wasn't for lack of crowdsourcing that I was continuing on this path of making the best of a situation that wasn't delighting me. And when I realized, because I heard from a mentor, that I had a choice, that freedom was a decision away. Like, what are these words that you're stringing together? That are you sure? Is that safe? Is that allowed? Will I get in trouble? All of these questions were just like machine gun fire of, oh, I'm not sure that's okay. And I'm was raised in church, and I don't know, is there a Bible verse that supports this, that I can be, do, and have anything that I desire, and that I'm the one, like I have agency. I've been waiting for years and years and years for somebody else to give me permission to live the life that I wanted to live. I had it all planned out, but my plans could not be implemented without somebody else saying yes, whether they were an investor, whether they were a realtor, whether they were a husband, whether they were a potential client. I felt like I was always requiring somebody else's role. And because I somehow couldn't convince them or get them up to speed in a way that yeses and money was just flying out of them toward me, that I was doing it wrong and that it must just not be meant for me. And as soon as I came to the understanding that no one was sitting around thinking about how my life could be better, and nobody was going to save me, no one was coming to save me, and that the person that I was waiting to receive permission from was me, everything changed. Everything changed. And in that understanding, it wasn't like, whoo, now I'm above all of the people that I used to be waiting for. I realized that all of the manipulation and navigating other people's comfort level to make sure that, this perfect scenario was available for my now ex-husband at all times so that he had a beautiful experience and everything was perfect for my daughter so she had a beautiful experience, or for my brides as a wedding planner. I thought it was my role because I was paying attention, because I had information, because I was a high functioning codependent, that I thought that I was the person that was responsible for their experience, because I thought other people were responsible for my experience. And so in that freedom of that decision of giving myself permission to own my experience, as my friend Christine Santos encouraged me to do. And in doing that, allowing everybody else to own their experience, then everything changed. Because not only was I operating in this new mindset, I removed myself from the responsibility of everybody else's experience, even though they never put me in that role. I'm a 2 on the Enneagram. I'm the helper. So whether that's solicited or unsolicited, I'm here to help you. And it freed them, it freed me, it freed us. And in that experience, some relationships, we came even more together and rose together, and some relationships were rising separately, and some relationships are doing whatever they're doing, and I'm not paying attention because I'm staying on my side of the street. So I believe in the power of this word, permission. I believe in this concept and this paradigm shift that accompanies the ownership of our own experience. I also know, because I was very well practiced, that we can all have reason. Oh, it's 111. We can all have reasons why we can't have what we want. And we can lobby for those limitations all day long, or we can make a decision that we're going to do this differently. And it takes practice. It's what we all refer to as the work, and realizing that God, the universe, source, infinite intelligence, whatever you refer to as this higher power, is calling us up, and at the same time equipping us to become this next version of ourselves. And it's so fun to know that we're not doing that by ourselves, because we're doing it all together right here with everyone here. It's so fun. So thank you for being here. Thank you to Mo and Adriana, our first presenters. I'm so eager to hear how this word has impacted your lives personally and in the work that you do in the world. But before we start, I want to invite everyone to grab a journal or a piece of paper or a sticky note or whatever you have handy. And at the top of that page, I want you to write your name. So I will say, Wendy Harrop has my permission to, and then you can make a colon or a dot, dot, dot. And as you are listening to these conversations over the next couple of days, anything that comes to mind that you want to give yourself permission to do, I would love for you to add that to that list. So there's something that happens when we have a good idea, like it's like, ooh, that felt good, but there's something even, and clearly I don't even have the words. I'm sure there's brain science around this of what happens when we write it down and even what happens when we personalize it by adding our name to it. It it does something to really get it in there. And then we all know that mastery comes from repetition. So practicing this collectively together, I give myself permission to thrive. I give myself permission to stop what I'm doing in the middle of the day and be a part of an expansive conversation. I give myself permission to stop apologizing. Oh my word. I'm raising an 11-year-old, and it's very fascinating. Her dad actually brought up in a recent email exchange how much Amelia is apologizing, which, she's around me more than anybody. So I think there's something to that. And so we have gotten into the practice of, because I would say, you don't need to apologize. There's nothing to apologize for. And then she would accidentally run into me and I would say, sorry, mom. She's like, oh, sorry, mom. So I think you must be so confused. I'm telling you, don't apologize, and then being frustrated that you didn't apologize. So we are implementing this practice of making that a full sentence. So we are saying, I'm sorry. If we say, I'm sorry, then we finish it out. I'm sorry that that was your experience. I'm sorry that I ran into you. I'm sorry that, and then if the sentence doesn't sound like that's something we would ever say, then we talk about how there's no ownership in what happened that we need to take on. So it's parenting in your 50s. It's good stuff, man. I highly recommend it. It's so good. So, Mo and Adriana, if you would like to unmute yourselves, I have a question for you, much like the podcast, where I'm just going to ask you one question and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I would also love if, when Adriana is speaking, Mo, if something comes to your mind that you would like to add on or piggyback onto, I would you don't have to wait for me to moderate the discussion. I've so treasured my time with everybody that is presenting in this summit that I would like it if it felt like I was listening to your podcast where you guys are talking to each other. So please feel free, if you have anything to add, just hop right in there. So Adriana, I'm going to start with you. If you please introduce yourself, tell everyone what magical things you're up to, and then I will ask you our starting question.
Hey, hi, Wendy. Thanks for having me on this great, deep, fun summit, and thanks for everyone coming in. I am a health and wellness strategist and pharmacist and nutritionist and a mom and a wife and wearing lots of hats like most of us, especially women, do. I am from Slovakia originally. I came to the US when I was 26. I'm 49 now. I had to think about that a little bit. And I grew up in a very violent, abusive household, with my dad being very violent and miserable, and my mom a narcissist and alcoholic, and using me as a shield to protect herself from my dad. So there was no safety and no predictability, and I spent a lot of time alone and a lot of suffering, and had to escape to United States in order to literally survive. So, and then there was a tough road in the US to come to a place where I am supposed to be. I'm finally living the purpose that I'm supposed to be living. And the theme of permission today really connects to my story well. So whenever, we dive deep into that, I absolutely love this word, because growing up in the household the way I grew up, with a lot of trauma and control, there was no permission. So, and
Mm.
I want to obviously serve anyone who is listening here, and inspire them and empower them to, through my story, to go deeper into what permission actually is, and how to allow ourselves to give ourselves the permission to live in our own truth.
Mm, gorgeous. Thank you. Mo, please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wendy, for having me and for being here with your guests. And Adriana, so nice to meet you virtually. Um, so my name is Mo Carrick. My company is called Momentum. I'm a consultant and a coach, and I've been running that company for 23 years. I keep track of it because I founded the company the same year as I had my third child when I was 40.
Awesome.
And I'm 62. I live in Oregon, so I'm on the West Coast talking to you right now. And I'm just really compelled by this topic. I'm so happy that you've convened it. And Adriana, thank you so much for sharing your story. And, my heart really aches for little you that had to find a way to survive. And for anyone listening, we all have a story that often includes, I think, especially as women and as little girls, includes messaging that is about what we don't have permission to do. Yours is particularly horrible, and my heart feels for you in that. So, and I really appreciate you sharing it. I my main space, the space that I work in the most, is the workplace. And I'm an organizational psychologist. I'm an organizational development practitioner. I'm really interested in systems and how they work. And one of the things that I've noticed throughout my career, both as an employee before I started my business and with all of the clients that I work right now, is how permission gets lost in systems.
Mm.
And Adriana, you were talking about your family system, which is certainly one, but also in the systems that we interact with at work, the communities that we live in, permission can often become really nebulous or non-existent. And I think right now we're really seeing a lot of uptick in a lack of permission from society at large in terms of just what's happening globally around a rise in authoritarianism. And so I'm just really interested in the stories we tell ourselves about
Mm.
permission and the ways that we can claim and name permission. And I guess the personal thing that I would share is I had also my own family story of addiction, divorce, etc. But I think one of the times when permission really showed up for me was that I was diagnosed with malignant melanoma, really young. I was 21 when I had my first melanoma, which has historically been a very deadly type of skin cancer. And I knew that it was bad, like they told me that it was bad, but I didn't, I remember feeling this internal sense of like, oh, well, I better live fully now. Like I wasn't as frightened then when I was 21 as I might be now, or as I have been in more recent periods where I've been living with cancer. But I feel like that was a pretty young age to get a wake up call a little bit around what it was I was waiting for. And Wendy, you really spoke to
Mm.
that around, what we wait for to get permission. And I think for me, I was very early in my career. I just graduated college. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was anxious and scared about that. And I think that coincidence of that diagnosis kind of really shifted something in me around nobody's going to tell you what you can do anymore, and you may not have much time. So go for it. I've had a lot of time. I'm very lucky. My cancer was easy to cure. And I've had, like I said, I've lived with it all these years, and who knows, I may someday die of it, but it hasn't happened. So yeah.
Good. It's so
Yeah.
good. Oh my gosh. Thank you for that. I love it. So, my question is twofold. Tell me about the woman you're becoming and the role permission, specifically self permission, plays in that. the reason I'm saying the women we're becoming, I've been having this love-hate relationship with the about page of my website. And it's so fascinating to me. I had my website done a couple of years ago by a woman that I knew, and she does this professionally. And I spent way more money than I ever spent on anything. And for me, that came with a expectation. And the about page specifically was outsourced to a person that I never spoke to and who apparently never looked at my Instagram, never looked at my other web. I mean, it was just written. It wasn't even true. Like the things that were in it weren't accurate. And I was so triggered and frustrated by it that I couldn't bring myself to edit it because which is like the whole it's so dumb. Like that's a whole like let's get a therapist on this call because that was a whole thing. And it just took so long to wrap and then I'm like trying to edit these paragraphs that don't align with me either. So there was so much fits and starts with that. And then I realized I'm actually so tired of, so ready to complete with my quote unquote story. It's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I lived in California and wanted to live in Massachusetts my whole life, and it took 45 years, blah, blah, blah. It took 24 years to become a mom, blah, blah. Like, I'm just done. I'm like, let's talk about where I'm going because that is far more interesting. And I can clearly talk all day about that. So I would love to, this is becoming my favorite question in when I'm meeting new people, because I've been asking them, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season? Because that's been so fun on the podcast. But I found on this cruise specifically, when I was meeting somebody, I just asked them, tell me about the woman you're becoming. And it was so beautiful because every time I did that, they did not miss a beat. And it, like I was watching them light up as they were speaking their existence into the present. It was, oh my gosh, it was so yummy. So please tell me, Adriana.
Yeah, I love that question. And nice to meet you too, Mo. And thanks for sharing your story as well. We all have a story, right? And what I learned through studying trauma through the biggest psychotherapists that are out there who really make you understand trauma is I realized, we all have it and there's really no comparison. And that leads me to answering your question, Wendy, because we're always evolving. As long as we're living, we are always evolving, and just making sure that the woman that I am becoming. It's been very interesting when I'm thinking about as you're asking the question that I'm always becoming something, right? And right now, I am becoming at this moment a person who has finally understood what trauma actually is. And it's a wound. If anybody has had really traumatic childhood, and I'm talking more about the childhood trauma because that's when our brain is being formed. And that's when our beliefs and our behaviors are being formed based on the traumatic experiences we experience, which is really not what happened, but how your body and emotional system, your nervous system responded to what happened. And based on that, the beliefs and the stories and the behaviors are being created, which have been impacting my entire life. And I did not understand why. And I've been on the healing journey since I came to the US at 26 and really, you know, peeling one layer at a time. It's like, okay, I healed this part. Okay, I feel like I'm good. And, oh man, there is another one. Oh, this triggers me. Oh, that triggers me. That pisses me off. That makes me explode. And this is, you know, where my mother and my father are showing up. So there's always something, but I never understood what I understood now at 49, that my wounds are not me. My behaviors that are being taught from my traumatic childhood are not me, and I finally feel separate. So that's a huge learning lesson, because he was getting into the relationships with my husband, with my daughter, and people around me, and I could not figure it out. It was driving me crazy. So you know, I'm hoping to, you know, inspire and empower people in a way that, and through my coaching, that I do with people, because I do one-on-one and group coaching with clients, and we always start with the inner environment. I have a 4-pillar live well methodology, and the very first pillar is inner environment, because we have to start with what happened to us in our childhood, because all of that is stored in our body, and that's where disease really happens, right? So where I am right now, where I'm going, is finally being free from the wounds that were created that I had no control over. And that freedom that I finally feel in my body, that separation from it, and connecting to my body and feeling my heart and opening my heart actually to amazing experiences that I did not allow to happen because I was scared. I didn't trust. I had to protect myself for 49 years. Now I'm finally saying, I don't know if I can cuss. F it.
Permission to cuss.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Fuck it, I am done. This is not mine. I was not in control. I feel compassion towards my parents. Obviously, they didn't know any better, but that doesn't mean that I'm supposed to carry this anymore. I am done. It's over. But it really took a lot of reading books, and, you know, and just really diving deep into my body and really feeling into the body. And that's really the somatic experiences, to like, okay, I can breathe now. That's not me. I'm going to create me how I want my life. And so that's where I'm heading. And that was, you know, that was that permission to finally give myself that I am not responsible for what happens to me. I do not feel shame. I do not feel guilt. I'm very open about everything that happened to me. That's another thing I tell people: talk about what happened to you.
Mhm.
Get it out of the body, get it out of your head, speak about it. Because through speaking, you are releasing it. You're not making it yours anymore. You're realizing that it is something that happened to you that you had no control over, and it's that processing. So it's kind of a long-winded answer.
Oh no, it's beautiful.
But that is where I am personally, and I am excited about my new life, what it's going to bring from this place. And I am going to be able to help my clients more go through this journey as well, because every single one of them has some kind of an experience that is blocking them from truly creating a vibrant health, that my book is about. That, you know, it's coming out in May. Shameless plug. But
Yay.
but it really starts in here, in that inner environment.
Oh gosh, thank you so much for that. That's so beautiful. And I love what you said about getting those traumatic experiences, voicing that and getting it out of our body. Dr. Edith, oh wait, Edgar is her last name. I believe her first name is Edith. She was a Holocaust
Yeah.
survivor and like wrote all these books after age 50. She's brilliant. She says like what you get out of your body doesn't make you sick. And I know I've said this before on the podcast. I'm sorry.
It's like a goosebumps, as you said.
Right? Right when she says it too, because you're like, damn, if she's if she says that that's true, I totally believe her. She well, what happens and what has been my experience is that sometimes we can think, if I say that out loud, if I let that out, it will crush me. And what actually happens is when we let that out, it loses all of its power. It dissipates because now it's not the boundary of your skin. Now it's just out. And the opposite can happen to our dreams. And, I'm a huge proponent of dreaming and holding space for women that are holding space for themselves to dream. And in the practice, when people come to stay at the bed and breakfast, I roll out this big sheet of butcher paper and give them some colored pencils and say, all right, like, if there were no limitations, and there aren't, what would you do? Like, what do you want? And just to interact with that project during the length of their stay. And what can happen with our dreams is we fear that if we let them out, somebody else will crush them, instead of just like the opposite of our fears and traumas will crush us. And what actually happens is when we voice our dreams, they grow. Thoughts grow as they are shared. So we get some water and some sunshine on those things, and they have roots, and then they take on a life of their own, and in a supportive, encouraging environment that is the Phineas Wright House. If you have a dream and you feel uncertain about it, just come on over, because I've got you, and it's my favorite thing to do, because I think your dreams are amazing. And of course they're going to work, and they're going to work out even better than you ever thought they would, because everything is always working out for you. Like, it's just good. That's fun energy to be in. So I love what you're saying too, about that there's safety in voicing that, and it is empowering to be able to recognize the separateness of what happened and who you are. I love that. Thank you. Mo, please tell me about the women you're becoming and the role that permission plays in that.
I totally will. But first, I actually have a question for Adriana. I'm
Please.
curious, so this decision, this emancipation that you're experiencing right now around, I love what you said about realizing that the wound wasn't you and that the trauma wasn't you. I'm curious what kind of energy that has freed up and how much.
Love. I felt, and I studied, just to let everybody know, in case you're looking for something like, release and wanting to learn more about trauma. I want to make sure that I share my resources too, so it actually is helpful. So there is Peter Levine, who is the creator of Somatic Experiences, Richard Schwartz, and Dr. Gabor Mate, who is a survivor of Holocaust from Hungary. So through him, he was the biggest influence on me in the last few months to understand what trauma is. And it's really love, just feeling the energy of deep love. And because so many people, like, Mo, that's a great question, because, even though, like, I thought my whole life, no, I love people, I love me, but no, there was always a little bit of that guard. There was always something. And I was really actually working with physical therapist who has interesting gifts. And he put his hands on my chest, and it was encouraging me to just let go, let go, let go. And all of a sudden I just felt like something just opened up, and he's like, oh, there it is. And I started to cry. And in that moment, but I had to do this psychological, emotional work before it would not have happened in just him. It's always multiple things. It's never just one thing. But in that moment, I felt love, deep, deep love that I've never felt before. And I finally understood what that energy of love actually feels like in my body. And I said, that's it. That's what I want to feel for the rest of my life. And now I felt it, and that's it. So,
Oh my gosh, I love it. And look at your smile.
I know, I was
Wow.
just gonna say, she's so lit up. Oh, it's
I
gorgeous.
know. It's so beautiful. I was curious, and I totally love your answer because I was thinking of it as you were talking about how. So I'm a student of Dr. Brene Brown. I'm certified in her approach, Dare to Lead. And, Dr. Brown has researched shame and its impact on us to keep us silent and to keep us small. And, shame is very much associated with trauma because part of the internalized experience is that we are not enough. And so I just like it, not that we made a mistake, but that we are actually like, there's something actually wrong with us, which is one of the places where childhood trauma in particular can really stifle us, is if we aren't able to heal through the shame and, like you've been saying, Wendy, to speak it and to have it lose power over us. And then what gets emancipated is just all this beautiful energy and life force. And I just love that. I love that for you. And I love that for all of us. Who am I becoming? So I love that question because at my age and stage, I have been battling, like I loved your story about the about page, Wendy. I go through the same thing, the same agony over and over again on my
Well,
website.
right, every year we get
Oh,
older, it's like, oh my God, how long can this thing be?
I know. And also you put, yeah, right. How long can it be? And also it's so hard to translate sometimes, who we are into like a medium like that. And almost always for me, as soon as it's live, I don't like it. And then I'm like, oh God, now I gotta pay somebody else to help me figure it out. But what, but at this
I know
age,
who you should not hire.
yeah, right. Oh, I got plenty of those in my past too. I got a good designer right now who I love. But when I think about my age and stage, one of the things I've been noticing is that there's a lot of pressure. I have felt a lot of pressure in the last few years about retirement, which I'm going to put in quotes because I'm 62, my husband's 67, he's semi-retired, and I've been really struggling with it because it's not really my reality. My youngest child is still just started college. She's 23 and she's had some hiccups from COVID. And so I have to support her. And my husband's semi-retired. So I like the money train has to keep going here for this entrepreneur. And also I love my work and I don't feel like retirement is really what I'm into right now. I have other things that I want to do. And so what I was thinking of how to answer your question, I'm like, all right, this is what's in my future. I think I'm becoming uh like a sexy, rich crone.
Yes, I see that. Let's change crone to queen.
To queen, yes, to
Yeah,
queen
it
with
sounds
sovereignty.
funner.
Yeah, exactly. And
More
because I
fun.
am a grandparent, I have, we've got one 6-month-old and my son's partner has a 10-year-old. And so I feel very interested in, my mother was very important to my child rearing. I was divorced with 3 kids. I couldn't have established my career without her support. And she's now deceased, but I really see myself as having a role in the grandchildren that I may be graced with in my life, um, biological or not. And also, I still feel a lot of passion about both um, this second marriage really continuing to thrive because I've learned so much about myself through divorce and remarriage, and also to really kick it into gear around the business because I know so much more now. Like I'm so much wiser
Right?
now about the work I do, and the world needs the work that we do. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And I love this permission to thrive past who decided the retirement age
Right.
and who, and right? It's like this, if that is not in service to you, it's a change the channel. Like
Right.
you don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
Right.
In
Yep.
fact, do us all a favor and don't do anything that you don't want to do because it's not fun. It's not fun for you. Nobody wins in that situation.
True that.
It's not good.
True that.
Wow. Okay. So, since retirement is such an antiquated word and we're not using it anymore, what what are you giving yourself permission to do? Like what does this look like in this trajectory of this world that you're creating for yourself with the beautiful witnesses that are your grandchildren.
I think for me, there's a couple pieces to it. One is around wealth. I didn't inherit wealth. I think of it as being attached to the money train since I don't know when. I was born into the house of work. My first job, I was 14. I've not ever really stopped. And as a single parent, who carried the burden of the divorce costs primarily, I have just traded time for money.
Mhm.
And so I don't have much to leave behind for anybody, and I want to, like, I want to leave something behind. Not, I don't think I'll be someone who's leaving a huge estate, but I don't want to have financial insecurity at the point at which I can't work, and I want to be able to help my children and grandchildren be secure. So wealth is part of it. I think another part of it for me is health. And they're not in any particular order, right? But really trying to get in really good shape, like really lifting heavy weights. I've been an endurance athlete my whole life, and I still love
Right.
endurance.
Even when you weren't dressed for exercise.
Yeah,
Like
right.
your whole existence has been as an endurance athlete.
Yeah, thank you,
Single
Wendy.
mom
Yeah,
that's endurance athlete.
totally, totally. And so now I'm like, okay, I mean, I still enjoy my endurance activities separate, not just my work, but like being active and being outside. But I also really enjoy pushing heavy weight around. My mother had a lot of, she was not an athlete. She was a very active person, but she lost a lot of tone. She had a lot of falls in her old age. And I want to be stronger than that. I want to be able to like bend down and have a running child smash into me and not have something bad happen, And so being strong really matters to me, being healthy. My husband and I both had cancer. So we recently, made a decision to purchase an RV, a pull behind RV, because we had an RV that was a driving one. We decided to purchase another one, which is really a cool RV because we want to travel here around the U.S. and it needed to be something that I could work from because the other one was too small and too compact. So we have this new RV coming, which will allow us sort of more flexibility. We're going to rent out our house while we're gone to really see this great nation. I'm really excited about going to every national park. I'm a huge national park fan. Of course, they're in crisis right now, so we'll see if there's any of them left by the time we arrive. But
There will be.
yes, I think so too. So doing some of that is a piece of it, and just really, I think for me and like many of your listeners, and probably like both of you, Adriana and Wendy, like the biggest, most important commodity I feel like I have is time.
Mm.
So I'm really conscious about time right now. Where do I spend my time? How do I want to spend my time? With whom?
Mm.
And trying to make decisions that are born from that. And
Wow.
for me, that does still include working, but I really enjoy my time with my clients, but being thoughtful and strategic about what that looks like. So that's
Oh,
kind of,
I love that. Thank you. Adriana, I'm assuming you have much to say in response to that. So go after it, Queen.
Oh gosh. Well, yeah, it's kind of what you're saying, Mo. It's time is a big thing, is really and it's easier said than done. And it's almost like sometimes for some of us we have to arrive to this place where we're almost forced to, and I'm trying to uh I have tried to learn now not to be in that place where you're forced to, just deciding how, where, and with who you're spending your time with. Giving yourself permission to really know, and I'll back it up. I think the first thing that you have to know is yourself first, because it's really hard to know what you're actually giving your permission to when you don't really understand yourself and who you really are at the core, and your soul's purpose. And So that's where it would start with, and that was my long journey to really understand myself. And then, like me being in the middle of book launch right now and running my business and a family, daughter, husband, and a million other things, I have come to the place, and I'm a health coach who is actually doing what I preach, what I teach. Like when it comes to food, sleep, like I go to bed at 8:30, I get up at 5 a.m. and I do my morning practice from journaling to yoga, exercise, and I'm done by 8 a.m. and then I cook every meal, everything is organic, and just like I'm doing all these things, which takes a lot of like
Time.
right what?
Time.
Yes, and
Right?
now it's automatic. I don't think about it. But at some point, it had to become a decision that this is the most important thing to me. And when people tell me, I don't have time, which most of the time that's their excuse, right? That's the easiest way to go. I don't have time. It's really heavy. It really like feels heavy for me in my body because you don't want to come to a place where you're forced to make time. And everybody has time. It's about time management. It's about priorities. It's about self-respect. It's about self-love. But these are just empty words if you don't really understand what those words mean to you. Um, and also are expecting that everybody has their own journey, right? And not everybody, even though they want these things, are just not ready for those things, right? And for me, I am finally ready to really just be around people who care about me, who truly love me, who really are there, to celebrate with me and I had, experience with my friend, with my close friend, where I realized there was a little friction and I felt a little bit of jealousy. And instead of just like feeling all this in my body and not knowing what to do with it, I allowed myself to speak my truth and address it because I am done making up stories. Because we make up all these stories in our heads that might not be true because they're all based on our own perception and all the things. So I just went straight and talked to her. This is what you said. This is how it made me feel. And I want to understand if that was your intention or what's going on. And it just feels so liberating. So that's part of it, just giving yourself permission to actually speak your truth. It's not about attacking somebody, it's about expressing how what somebody actually did or said, how it made you feel, and being curious about, was that really your intention? And it was amazing because I needed a break. And I'm probably going somewhere else a little bit. So Wendy, you can stop me if it's like, hey, it's off topic.
No, you're good. Go.
So I needed a 2-week break from her. I needed to clear my energy. And I gave myself that permission. I'm like, because we meet every week. And I said, no, I need a break. I gave myself that energy break. And what was interesting is she needed it too. And we met 2 weeks later. And she just was like open and celebrating me and so much love and completely different energy. I was like, this is what happens when we are true to ourselves and not try to force things and what's right and what's wrong and whatever. It's like really, really feeling into your body and telling the truth. Um, in a, what I call it, from a place of curiosity. Um, and yeah, I mean that's really what it is for me. It's a pretty, not having that fear of judgment or losing something that's not supposed to be there anymore. Right?
Right. I
And
mean,
it's not easy. Like,
but it's a byproduct of love, right?
yes,
Like that shift in you of feeling that intense love, which overpowers everything. It
so
doesn't excuse everything, but you also don't care. So it kind of does, right? Like
yeah.
there's something in that that is so expansive and complete that becomes the new filter, right? And I love what you said about I've been adding to my permission slip. I have permission to dive deep. I have permission to use my words. It's just so beautiful because in that example, and in the example of me completing with my marriage, it's a double blessing. So any disconnect or discord that we're feeling, we can give ourselves permission to investigate. What is my role in this? What story am I telling myself? What am I making this mean? And then having the courage to include the other person. It's always a double blessing. You're never, if you need to fire somebody on your team because they're not performing or whatever, like you're not happy with their work, they're not happy with the work. So it's like you're freeing everybody to do what's in their highest and best. And I'm not firing anyone on my team, by the way, for the people on my team that are on this call. Like I'm also not passive aggressive. I give myself permission to not be passive aggressive. But additionally, this concept you started with in knowing ourselves, and how as I was thinking about that, I was thinking, well, yeah, that's important to revisit because it's kind of a moving target. And it's not really moving in the sense that we're wishy-washy, but we're evolving. And so the woman that was doing the best with the tools she had in 2019 is not the same woman that got some new tools in 2020 and is using them in new ways in 2025 and is now like needs to rewrite her about page because that just sounds like bleh. It's just so it's that gum has already been chewed. So in this investigation, in this self-awareness, in this practice that you have every morning of um really not establishing but nurturing this relationship that you have with yourself
Yeah.
allows you to show up in all of these conversations, in these relationships, to risk the relationship by speaking your truth, by using your words, by you invited your friend into that experience. Was that your intention? And then of course she can clear it up or say, gosh, yeah, it
Yeah.
was. We're ready to complete. Okay, let's go.
I mean, what is the intention? That's a really good word. The intention is always, to me, the intention is always, I just want to have that freedom of knowing I'm living in my own truth. And speaking of books, I wrote this book actually a long time ago. It's called The Light Living in Your Own Truth. So if anybody wants to get it, it's super cheap. It's on Amazon. And I self-published it. And it really talks about this. Like you're just never gonna be completely centered and free and I don't know, it's just the most important thing to really establish. And it takes work, but it doesn't take that much work. It's mostly it's, I wouldn't say work, it's mostly and consistently showing up for yourself, even if it's 10 minutes every morning, sitting and just being with yourself, especially now we're so busy with so many things. And so it's really coming from the place of complete truth. And it's your truth. It's not, doesn't mean it's the truth, but it is your truth. And you're always open for somebody to tell you what you were thinking and feeling is not what they intended. So you're meeting with these intentions, and then you either come to a place like, okay, well, there is a disconnect. This is maybe, we take separate roads, but then you're taking it from a place of peace and understanding. And again, you can only have control over yourself, right? So somebody might not be able to do that, and that's okay. But again, you always end up being in peace because you're coming from a place of truth.
Mm.
That's just the bottom of it.
I love that. And there's a huge piece of that for me, Adriana, really involves self-compassion, which is, of course, another kind of permission, isn't it? And I was thinking about how there really is there is a season for everything. And I think some of the permission over when I think back over the course of my life, some of the permission I've had to give myself is to be making the best choice I can in a moment when there were no good choices.
Mm,
Because, and I think about this a lot in my first book, which is called Fit Matters, How to Love Your Job. My co-author and I were researching, how can people assess uh, a good job for them from the outside? Because we all know it's really hard to do if you're looking for work. You don't really know what it's like until you get in there, right? And so we discovered 7 things that we need from work, which coincidentally now really coincide with what the Surgeon General is saying is critical for well-being. But not every job can provide everything we need. So being
mm.
able to say, I'm choosing to do this at this stage of my life because it's what I need. I remember I was talking to one of my kids now who are all grown recently about early in my career, I was a wilderness guide. And so I was gone for a month at a time, typically, and then I would be home for a couple weeks and then be gone for a month at a time. We had no cell phones then, so
Where were you a wilderness guide?
I worked for Hurricane Island Outward Bound,
Okay.
in Maine, mostly up in Newry in that area. And I also worked for Pacific Crest Outward Bound out in California in Joshua Tree. And then I worked for the National Outdoor Leadership School in the Wind River Mountains
Oh
in
my
Wyoming.
gosh, amazing. It's reminded me of a conversation with a woman that I had on the podcast, Anna Higgert, and
Mm,
she is what did you call yourself? A wilderness guide?
that
She's a
was
wilderness like I don't camp. So I what are those words that you string together? Something about being outside overnight? Yeah. And she did this test that you have to hike this really rigorous course, and it takes 3 days or something, and you have to do it by yourself for this certification. And she
oh
did
wow.
it at 67.
Wow.
Yeah, she's
Good
cool.
for
She's in
her.
Nova Scotia. So if the RV makes its way up north and to the east, you
Yes,
might want to connect with her because she's a
totally.
badass.
That's awesome. I will listen to her
Yes.
episode and
Yes.
yeah, that's really cool. And
Okay.
I really wanted to do that job. Like that was really an important job for me. And at the same time, it was a very difficult job for me. I was, I was in a stage of probably wanting to begin to find someone who would be my mate to settle down. I didn't have a permanent home. I lived out of my car. And I can remember like crying, like going to work and just crying and being like, oh, this is gonna be so hard. I'm with these people I don't know and these instructors. Oh, and yet it was the right job for me in that time. I cut my teeth on group work. Like I've never once regretted all of those months from what I learned in terms of group dynamics and the profession that I have continued, to this day around facilitation. And the job was hard. Similarly, I remember one of my first corporate jobs, I traveled hundreds of days a year. And I was a young mom. I had 2 babies at that time. It was tough, man. It was hard. And yet, and I probably, I would have loved to give myself permission to leave that job at certain points,
Mhm.
but because of economics, I needed that job. My family and I needed that job. I had to do that job. And so it was powerful to give myself permission to say, you're doing this job now because it matters for this thing, and it won't be the job you have forever.
Right.
It's right
Right.
for now.
Permission to reframe.
Permission to reframe and to say, yep, it's hard right now. And that's okay. There's still a reason why I'm doing it, right? Because I want to have a safe home for my children,
Right.
right?
Right. The
And then
shift of things are happening for me, not things are
yes,
happening to me.
totally, totally. And then being able to sit with that in terms of just even feeling the pressure of society's shoulds. And, for me, that was another dynamic earlier in my career when I'm sure people that are listening, and perhaps even the both of you, have felt this horrible tension that's related to the motherhood myth, which is that, if we're the perfect mother, we're with our children all the time, which is, largely specific to white women, but it's, and that we have to only feed them certain kinds of food and dress them in certain kinds of clothes. It's like a very hard to
Make
attain.
all of their Halloween costumes.
Totally. Handmade Halloween costumes, all the things. And it's pretty much unattainable for any normal person who's also trying to make a living to be that kind of mother. And so trying to give ourselves permission to be the best mother, the best parent that we can be even when we're messy and ragged and they're eating a hot dog or McDonald's French fries or whatever, like, yep, that's not ideal. But is it okay? Sometimes because that's the best I can do. Yes, it is. And so we have to fight the external messages. And I can remember as a young mother, especially really feeling so much guilt and shame just for going to work.
Mhm.
And then to be able to reframe and be like, oh, wait a second. I'm not going to work because this is some little hobby I'm pursuing. Like
Right,
I'm going to work for the sanctity of my children being able to survive in this world. And yay me,
right.
right?
And at
So
the same time, like reparenting yourself
yeah.
while you're parenting, because
Mhm.
of course that brings up all of these situations hit us in different ways based on what our prior experience was. And there it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot.
It's a
It's a
lot
lot.
to be menopausal while my daughter is entering puberty.
Yep.
Like, oh,
Yes.
oh, so now I'm like telling her how, oh, you're getting all of my hormones. Like I'm leaving my body and they're going to you. So you can remember this in how 45 years when
I
you're on
love
this
it.
side of it.
If only that were the case, she could give some back to you.
Well, right. Like I just need a little in a little patch. That'd be
That's right.
great.
You just rub up against me. Can your estrogen just
Exactly. Exactly.
I love
Oh,
it.
it's really, I'm fascinated as I become aware of what sometimes permission to not be mad at myself for thinking that I'm becoming aware of things that should have been obvious, that parenting is hard. Parenting is uncomfortable and unfamiliar. Parenting is really important to me, and I value doing it correctly. I value doing it well. That's it's not hard. It's just like all of these things, Adriana, what you were talking about in your morning practice, in the way that you're taking care of your body. It's not hard because you're seeing the results. Right? So I have the same sleep schedule as you. I go to bed at 8:30, I get up at 4:45. I have a morning practice. I'm looking forward to adding yoga to that. I don't do that yet. But and when I say that to people and I say I get up at 4:45 every day, their face is like, "Oh, well, I'm not doing that." And there's something that on its own probably not desirable to the majority of people. But there's something about getting results for the thing that you're doing that feels good in your body that makes it no longer about getting up at 4:45. When my silent alarm goes off on my watch, I say, thank you. Thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for the connection, the expansion that's waiting for me at that desk over there. Thank you that this practice is a vote for the woman that I'm becoming. I love what this has done for me. So as you're in your book, Live Well, the implementing all of these different components that have to do with health and wellness, it's a new practice, but rather than being hard, we can identify that it takes great intention. And we can also identify that our commitment to ourselves is real.
Yeah.
And I'm not here for the easy road. I'm here for ease. And I give myself permission to do what feels in alignment. And that's what ease looks like for me.
Yes, amen. Yeah. And it's, like we wake up very early. Yeah, for many people, it's like, what? And it works for you, it works for me. And I tell people that doesn't mean that that is something that you have to do. Again, you go back to what it is that your journey is, what it is that you need. Get to know yourself. You might be able to get up at 7 a.m. and still do the practice. It's a matter of what is it that what is your vision, right, for your life, and what do you have to and why do you want it, and what are the steps that you have to take to get there, just like what are the roads you have to take to go to grocery store, go to work, or whatever. It's the same thing with just living on purpose. Like what are the steps you have to take? For me, the steps are I have to get up at 5 a.m. So whilst everybody's still sleeping, I have literally these 2-3 hours for myself to do this. And now, the beautiful thing about it is what you said about results. The results are coming in. And as soon as they start coming, which doesn't really take a long time, you'll be like, well, obviously this works. This is making me feel this way. This is making my life better this way. So then it doesn't have to take that much thinking and really work. It's just, you're doing what makes you feel good. You're getting the results that you want. So there is really, it's about, and this is where coaching is great. It's about taking the first step, right? And then taking another step. And then it just kind of, it just starts going. But we all need help. We need community. We need support. That's what I tell everybody. We're not supposed to do things alone either, just like I am in the place and we all are in a place because of other people and other people's support and guidance. So that's a huge reminder for people too. Just like, don't try to do things alone. It takes much longer. It's much harder. And we're supposed to live in the community and make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who are actually taking you to the place where you want to go. So, yeah.
Totally. I just want to underline that, and what you just said, Adriana, because I think it's one of the things that does involve permission.
Yeah, 100%.
In a big way. One of the conversations I was having with my husband this morning, I mentioned that he's semi-retired, so he's been struggling because he's in the diversity, equity, and inclusion area. In this country, that business has taken a real hit economically. So he's still pursuing his work, but he's also in semi-retirement. And we've recently made a decision, which is that he's taken over the majority of taking care of the hearth and home, and also me. Taking care of me, like making sure that we have nutritious dinner at night, helping me make some of my travel plans. And we've done that really deliberately around the success of my business. I'm working on my 4th book, etc. And it's been very difficult for both of us. For him, in terms of his identity, like he thought he'd be CEO of his own company at this stage and not in this space. And it's really hard for me because I have always prided myself on like being the one who also takes care of the home and the garden and all the things. Our children are grown now, so there's not care needed there as much. But it's really quite powerful because it requires asking for help. It requires me being more clear on what do I need for help, what is helpful and what is not helpful. And then for him tuning in to that. And we're also seeing in the milieu that I'm working in the workplace, we're seeing such huge disconnection. In fact, that's what my 4th book is about. We're calling it loosely The Connection Advantage, because we have a real dip in social capital right now in our country. We have a loneliness epidemic. We've got the biggest mental health crisis we've ever lived through. We're in that right now. And it's very much connected to phone-based childhoods, to COVID-19 persistent consequences. And I worry that we're atrophying our muscles for real connection. And for me, it starts with what you just said, Adriana, which is like the capacity to let ourselves be seen, yes, with permission, but also to be held by one another, because we are social beings that are designed to live in an interconnected way. But our rugged individualism and our isolation with technology facilitating a lot of that has really disrupted some of those fundamentals. And we have to bring it back in our homes, in our neighborhoods, and in our workplaces, and everywhere else. So I just really, my energy for Duff when he said that, because it's absolutely what what I'm focused on right now.
Well, of course, we'll all buy the book as soon as you're done writing it, but how
Thank
does
you.
that book end? Like, what are, I mean, I think connection is one of my superpowers, and not necessarily I'm the result is so closely tied to the desire
Mhm.
for it. So I'm good at it because I crave it. So I practice it. So it
Yes.
works, right? So it's not, I don't know if it's the like that I'm good at it, or that it's just really, really important to me. And I'm taking the steps to obtain what's important to me. So, I mean, it's the podcast, it's these summits, it's the Say Yes Sisterhood, it's the trips to France, it's the pattern interrupt, it's all of these things all require loads of permission, because it's it's shocking to me how much coaching we recall we require to do what feels good.
Yeah, totally. And also I would add, like, you are really good at it.
Oh,
I mean,
thank you.
I've seen you, and I'd love to interview you for the book because
Sure.
some of it, right, is what you do naturally. But some of it is what is a craft that you have fine-tuned
Mm.
through the school of hard knocks, which is how we learn. So yes, you've craved connection, but you've gotten really good at how to do it. And this is what prompted me to write this book is I had a guy ask me in a keynote speech last year, the 500 city managers, that I was talking about the connection advantage. And he raised his hand and he stood up and he said, Mo, I'm with you. I agree 100%. How do we do it? And his question gobsmacked me because in my mind, I was like, oh, I know how we do it. I have an approach, but I couldn't answer him that question in like 2 minutes. Like, like I didn't have a way to answer that question for him. And so that's what I'm really researching. But I think it starts with the intention that that's what matters. And the permission, as you just said, to go for what it is that we want, but also recognizing that because sometimes it doesn't feel like we want connection. Sometimes it feels like we want to do it alone.
Mm,
At least it has for me. I am kind of a rugged individualist. That's what I was trained to be by our society. And so I have had to battle feelings of feeling less than when I let someone assist.
totally. I mean, it's nature over nurture,
Yeah,
right? So it's like, am I built this way? Was I created this way?
right,
Or did the
right.
culture create me to do everything by myself?
Totally.
I've been in a season of reframing my relationship with support. And so a part of what that looks like is, oh, okay, I'm going to ask for help. Okay. Watch me. Like, I add it to my intentions. All right, here I am. And so I'm like, ask, 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 ask. Would you believe I do not receive help? I would say, like, I'm asking, I'm journaling. I have this conversation with Amelia about it because I had the realization it's so fascinating. I'm journaling about, I am, my affirmations. I am wildly supported. I'm all these things. And I recognized where someone would offer, when I had chickens, I'm buying these 50-pound bags of chicken feed, and the guy at Tractor Supply, can I take that to your car? Oh, no, I got it. Because, like, unless you're going to come home and get it out of my car and take it to the hen house, like, what help is that? But I realized that I had this practice where I'm asking for one thing and deflecting it at every opportunity. And I was like, oh my gosh, I really had to catch myself in mid sentence of, because I was always saying no to help, even though I was asking for it.
I love that. Me too.
Yeah, most of us women do, I believe, because we think we can handle everything. We got it all.
And
Right?
then we're supposed to.
exactly.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a very interesting thought. Is it society? Is it us? Is it, is it our homes, how we grew up? Is it, what is it? I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. And
Yeah.
it's good to have these conversations, Wendy, because yeah, it's one thing, but it's good that you're doing the affirmations because you're actually aware of it, right? That's the first step. I'm aware of it now. So next time when I say no, then I'll be like, hold on,
Never
actually,
mind.
yes, please. You can
Exactly.
your mind. You can always go back and say, oh, no, I meant to say yes.
And it's so
Oh,
when you were mentioning earlier about your conversation with your friend and asking her, like, this was my experience, was this your intention? I shared a house with a woman, and she would always be asking me, I'd be like getting ready to go for a wedding and I'm loading everything in my car, which is why I became a wedding venue. I was just done with that. And so she would always be asking me for help, or if I needed help, and I'd be like, no, 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 I got it, I got it. And finally, we had a conversation. We used our words, and she said, you know, I, she said, when I ask you if I can help you and you say no, it makes me feel like you don't think I'm capable of helping.
Mm.
And I was like, because she's 25 years older than me. And I was like, that's so fascinating because when you ask me, I think you think that I'm not capable of doing it. And so we were both having our own experience that was neither of our intention,
Mhm.
and how much beauty came in that dialogue because every time she asked for help, I was falling over myself to say yes, to let her help me
Mhm.
because I wanted her to know how capable I believe her to be.
Yeah, yeah, and we truly do want to help one another. I mean, most people, we're kind of driven that way. I mean, or created that way that we do want to help one another. It's just, yeah, giving yourself the permission to ask, and if the person doesn't want to help, they can always say no.
Right.
well, totally. And like, I love what you said about how it was a gift for your friend when
Yeah.
you said, when you let her help. But I was reminded that when you were talking of a friend of mine when I was, this was maybe 2 winters ago. This is a dear friend of mine. I took my sabbatical with her to Scotland,
Oh, fun.
and it was spring. We'd usually talk every week, and it was like we hadn't talked for a couple weeks. We were just coming out of the winter period. She lives back east. I live in the west, and so we were chatting. She said, "Oh, it's been a really hard few months. I've had some depression. I've been feeling really low. It's hard to get motivated." And I said, "A few months? Like, what about calling your friend to let her know that like you're struggling?" I said, "I had no idea. I'm so sorry." And she interrupted me. She kind of made a joke about it, but it was very telling. She said, "Oh, I know exactly how you feel. I remember when you told me about your decision to divorce, and that I had no idea your marriage was in trouble."
Mm,
And so we kind of caught each other like, wow, we are really good friends. We say we're really good friends, and yet we're not sharing our burdens. And this is not a friend. This is a friend I've known for 45 years. Like, this is a
yeah.
long-term friend.
Yeah.
So what's that about? That we're still, both of us, keeping these parts of ourselves private out of some false narrative that it's not to be shared, when
Oh,
sharing it would
so juicy.
expand the capacity of that loving friendship.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, that's so juicy. I'm sad to like be at the end of our time with that yummy nugget. Oh my gosh. So good. Right before we close, if anybody has any questions for Mo or Adriana, go ahead and put those in the chat. I would love to hear if there's any um just nuggets, anything you've added to your permission slip, all of those good things. Please feel free to do that. But Adriana, is there anything that you, oh, 222. I love it. So fun. I'm like play this game with Amelia. Oh, she just
Oh.
messaged me that it was 222. If there's anything you would like to say in closing, we'd love to hear from you.
Ah, well, thank you so much for this time together. I think this is a really important conversation to have for everyone on daily basis. And what I would say is permission isn't something someone gives you. It's a daily practice and the most powerful kind of practice that, as I said before, it comes from within, really knowing yourself first. And that's where the creations of permissions come in. And one of the things that I ask myself every morning during my morning practice, I don't call it meditation because it changes so much, but it's my morning practice. I always ask myself the question, what do I need?
Mm.
Saying it to myself, what do I need? What do I need with my eyes closed and just wait for things to come. So that's all I want to close with, and I hope for everyone to find the permissions that they are truly seeking in their lives to live in more love and freedom.
So beautiful. Thank you. What a gorgeous love note to yourself every day.
Mhm.
Asking yourself what you need. Oh, it's yummy. Mo, I want to hear your closing thoughts. And also, I would love for you to interview me for your book. And please, let's add extra 30 minutes to dive into that juicy nugget that you ended with in the stories that we tell ourselves and what we're trying to protect each other from.
Great.
Like, oh my
Totally,
gosh.
which of course is all about vulnerability, I think, isn't it? Right? Like, are we willing to show up as we are? You know, are we willing to show up as we are, which includes all of our beauties and gifts and also our flaws and our imperfections. They're all part of us. And so I think, yeah, this has been such a great, fun conversation. I knew it would be, Wendy, when
Thank
I
you.
saw your invitation, I was like, yes, I don't even know what this is, but yes,
Yeah.
and I feel
Yay,
really
that's the response.
totally. And I feel really enlivened by the conversation. I'm going into some work with clients and I just feel really grounded about hearing from both of
Yay.
you, how it is that you're navigating this messy, imperfect thing that we call life. I think what I'm sitting with and what I would offer for listeners is something that always is helpful to me, which is just to really remember and remind myself and sometimes even say to myself, I am enough
Mm.
right now as I am. And it helps me when I am feeling like I am denying myself permission. Often
Mm.
that permission is related, the lack of permission is often related to me wanting to be something I'm not, or to do
Mm.
something I'm not, or the shoulds and the coulds. And sometimes just it helps me to say, you know what, it's right now, you are enough as you are. So I just offer that to think about.
Oh, it's beautiful. Okay, tell everyone where they can find and follow you, just in case someone's not going to read the email, but they're listening while they're doing whatever fun thing they're doing. Go ahead, Mo. You can just
Perfect. I'm
continue.
mostly on LinkedIn. My website is momentum.com with the EMOEMENTUM. And then I am on Instagram a little bit as well. So you can find me there by my name, just Mo Carrick. Thank you, Wendy.
Perfect. Thank you. Adriana, how about you?
Yeah, so my business is called Your Wellness Made Simple because I make wellness simple. And the website is yourwellness-madesimple.com. So you can find my email and Instagram connection as well. I am doing Instagram because of my book launch, but it's not my main thing. I really like to connect people through email and phone. That's just how I serve best. So if anybody wants to find out more about that, and on my website is also my book, Live Well, Empowering Habits for Vibrant Health and Unstoppable Energy, that is going to be launching May 13th. So if you really want to have a good, clear guide at home that is not just a bunch of information, it's just no guessing, no restrictions, just really understanding your body and environment to create health, please get the book. And yeah, I'm hoping to hear from people because I really am here to serve and help people to create amazing health.
It's
Thank you,
amazing.
Mo.
Thank you so much. That was super, super fun. Welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited to have our second set of presenters for the Say Yes Summit with our fabulous theme of permission. So, ladies, since you are newer to the conversation, I have a little task for you. So we've all either grabbed a journal or sticky note or something, and we are writing at the top our name. So for mine, it says Wendy Harrop has my permission to, and then we are writing our permission slip. So during this conversation, if anything comes to mind that you are giving yourself permission to, or adding that to the list, I'm giving myself permission to thrive. I'm giving myself permission to use my words. I'm giving myself to permission to live this big, beautiful life that I'm creating for myself and not have fear that Keith Harrop can take it away from me. Because nobody can do anything that we don't give our consent to first. Whatever that looks like that could be a whole conversation, and I'm not trying to trigger anybody. And I am the deliberate creator of my experience. And so if I'm feeling hesitation to celebrate or to be big, then I'm doing that to myself. And I will out myself and what I am talking about. Yesterday, escrow closed on the 30 acres that borders my property. So I have now expanded my property line to be closer to what the original property line was for the Phineas Wright House when it was built in 1785. So that feels really, really good and exciting. And I had wanted that transaction to coincide with the completion of my divorce settlement. And I got an email this morning that there are some edits that opposing counsel and her client are working on. So I'm interested to see what those could be. So we shall see. But I am underlining that I'm giving myself permission to thrive. So I'm eager to hear what you add to your list during this conversation. But I'm going to have you each introduce yourself, what fabulous things you're up to in the world, and then I will ask our starting question. Elizabeth, why don't you start?
Okay, well, I'm so happy to be here with Alex and Wendy. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Elizabeth Marth Tarara. I do primarily work with women, although there's a few men mixed in there. I am a transformational coach working primarily in emotional and spiritual energetics. And I'm certified in conscious uncoupling as well as calling in the one, and trained in shadow work and sensuality and embodiment work. And yeah, keep on training in energetics. Wendy and I have a lot of the same path in that. So I'm excited to be here. I have a passion for helping women who are generally in midlife of some form and have gone through a big transition. So whether that's a loss, a divorce, a death, a career change, kids leaving, betrayal, whatever it is. And women who either never were really having the solid foundation of a sense of self or lost that sense of self at some way, and helping them to reclaim that and really get deep into their bodies, their souls, and their shadows, and transform that so that they have power in their sensuality and their desires, and the thing that they thought would break them that actually is their magic and makes their life.
Yay! So excited to have 90 minutes of your brilliant expertise. So fabulous. Alex, tell us about you, please.
I am a best-selling author, two-time business owner and entrepreneur. I live in San Diego. I own a studio in Palm Desert. I spent 18 years of my life in Chicago and had a massive, what I've coined as a 2x4 moment. On my 33rd birthday, my boyfriend was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. And so I went from his girlfriend to caregiver to fiance within a 24-hour time period. which really kind of launched what I call this 5-year burn period of letting it all go and allowing it to rise. And I published my memoir last May. It's called Soul Dive, My Journey into the Deep. I'm a public speaker and find no greater joy than sharing my story and creating connectivity with it seems to be mostly women, but there's again a lot of men sprinkled in there too. So that people know they're not alone. I give them permission to laugh and I invite them to keep living. And I think when these moments happen, they're death moments, whether it's an actual physical death and a loss or a divorce or a career change or moving across the country, I've done them all and say that life has been my greatest teacher and I have the alphabet of certifications as far as life goes. And you know, any way, shape, and form I can share that wisdom with the world is very much what I'm called to do.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the breadth of your experiences in such a condensed chronological amount of time,
Yeah.
right? Because you are you so a life coach, typically you would want someone who has had some life experience, and there can be this kind of brushing off of anyone younger than 40 having anything to add to a conversation, which of course is a complete narrative that is not in service. It's BS. It doesn't mean anything, but there is this cultural idea where, you know, like the same nonsense that a woman over 55 is not a value either, right? So there's like this society has us in this very short window where we are a contribution, and it's nonsense. So I love the ways that you are using what could have taken you out of the game to give you a place of contribution and growth and expansion, and that you haven't given yourself only to that. So you are still living your beautiful life and loving your beautiful life and loving people and allowing people in through the filter, the grid of what you've experienced. So I think you're doing it very, very well.
Thank
And
you.
as someone, well, scandalously old enough to be your mother, I'm very, very proud of you and the way that you're doing this. Well done, Queen.
Thank you. My mother is 76 and you are nowhere
Okay,
near
good.
enough to be my mother.
Right.
No.
Not as old as your mother, but I could, you know, biologically, I could be your mother.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I have no idea what your opening question is, but I think something that you know, when you do go through the experience of life, of which is a very great equalizer, because no one's immune to life coming from you for you. It's happening. It's just a matter of it's not if, it's when. Is this notion that when it does come for you and slap you upside the head, of which I've coined the 2x4 moment, which is the first chapter of my book, you very much get a choice. You know, you can wake up and see what you missed, or you can go back to sleep and, you know, remind yourself that it's going to happen again until you start paying attention. But when you do start paying attention, it's aligning you closer to what you're supposed to be doing here. And I think if everyone gets really honest, we're trying to figure out our purpose, because that's when life becomes a little bit easier, when it's in alignment and we're doing what we've been put here to do. And while I have experienced far more than most 39-year-olds have, it's for a reason. It's because the sooner that stuff kind of came into being and I was able to walk through it, you know, we teach what we know. So if becoming a yoga teacher taught me anything, it's like, teach what you know. And you regurgitate it back. And so this whole notion of lived experience and teaching it back is my purpose. And I've put much fancier words to it on my website, but that's really in simplicity all it is. It's an outreach of a hand. And if we're all asked to get in this vulnerability circle and share, because that's what humans crave, is that connection, I was tapped to say, I'll go first.
Beautiful. Elizabeth, anything that you want to add to that before I go into our question?
No, I'm honored to be sharing this space with you and hearing your story.
It's so fun. So, Elizabeth, you have a podcast. Alex, do you have a podcast?
No, I don't. Yeah.
It's so fun. Oh my gosh, I'm so obsessed because it's like the best kind of speed dating ever. Because people are on my calendar and then I bring them up on the screen and all I know is, whatever paragraph that they sent me or their publicist sent me or I found on Instagram because no one sent me anything. And I have this idea of this person, but there's so much more, obviously, that happens when we hold space for each other and when we're intentional about being present for the conversation and that we've carved out this beautiful amount of time that we get to participate, right? Like we get to add to the narrative, our own narrative, to each other's, to those listening, to whatever takeaway someone has that they then implement in another relationship. And then it's just this beautiful ripple effect that is happening for me in this platform. And I'm just so delighted that it introduced me to you, Alex, and Elizabeth. It's something that you and I have continued to grow from and share about on our own platforms. So thank you. Thank you for saying yes to me, saying yes to yourselves and being here because this is so fun. And I can't believe I'm at work right now. It's so fabulous. It's really good. So I was sharing a little bit in the first session, the catalyst for the question that I want to ask you. And it is, it's born from this reconfiguring that I'm doing with my about page. So I've recently become exhausted by my story. And I feel like that gum has already been chewed and I'm not interested in, when someone says, tell me about yourself, like I felt like I was okay, like inhaling to like the thing, whatever this practiced narrative that, like pause here for a laugh and oh, here's a sad face. And then, oh, here's all the joy and delight when they hear everything I'm doing now. And it just felt so rehearsed that, ugh. So I have changed my question and I'm loving to incorporate it here at this time is I would love for you to tell me about the woman you're becoming and how and what the role of permission is playing in that. So, Elizabeth, let's start with you. Please tell me about the woman you're becoming.
So you and I had a conversation yesterday and you had shared a little bit about what you just shared. And I love that because I think that in certain ways, like it's both, right? Like our stories of where we came from make up why we're here. Like what our purpose, Alex, you said that perfectly, like not perfectly. It really resonated with me when you said, what has happened is part of your purpose, like to teach, like we have our experiences and then we teach. So it's so like I think from in my work it's so important to give credence, especially because a lot of times when people are coming, like they're here, right? They want to be here but they're not quite there yet, and so that story is going to get them here. But to have walked this journey with you for the last few years and like just to see where you are, like you're a living testimony to living when you were here and somebody asked you that, like now you're living that, right? So it's
Thank
just
you.
very cool, that journey.
Yeah, and to just to add, like, I love everybody else's story. I'm just tired of
Oh,
telling my own. So
totally.
I'm not saying like,
Oh, no, no, no.
talk about where you've been.
And I think there's like both and, because I agreed with you yesterday. I'm like, oh my God, I can't like repeat this again. And like there's moments where I have like in my growth or I'm trying to reprogram, like I have to go back to that and be like, oh, I don't want to do that. That didn't feel good. Like I need to make this new thought. So I hear you, right? Okay. Giving myself permission, like what I'm giving myself permission for.
And how does permission, what role does permission play in this woman that you're becoming?
Yeah, so I think that it's so funny. The past year has really been a deep dive for me into um giving myself permission, and it's been subconsciously and consciously on both of those levels, because I have, after I lost my mom, which is part of my story, which was 4 years ago, which was kind of my 2x4 moment. I love that, Alex, to coin your term. Like I didn't know who I was without her. Like I literally didn't have like a separate self. And so the last 4.5 years of really like discovering more of who I am and all these different things, permission's been a huge part of it, because I had all these old narratives, all these old beliefs that like, and that they felt like truths. They weren't, of I can't, this is how it's supposed to be. And so I am now giving myself permission to like step more boldly into that other side of me, that darker side of me. And when I say darker, that's not a bad thing. So for me, that's like a beautiful thing, because I've been the nice girl. I've been the people pleaser. I've been the one that like wants to say yes, and like I get external, validation and external approval, and that's what's reflected back to me of who I am. And so now it's like going deeper and darker and be like, well, who am I? I'm actually like, I'm not all that nice, and I give myself permission to not be nice. I can be kind, but I can also be in my power and feel like in my boundaries and in my sense of self. And so it's really given permission to explore what that means, like explore what it means going deeper, going into you and I again were talking about this yesterday, parts of the self that culturally, religiously, societally may be like not things that you look at. And so it's interesting how that's showing up in my personal life as well as in my work. Like, all right, let's look at the rage. Like, how can we like get into the rage? Like, how can we make that sexy and be turned on by that? How can we like use that for our growth? Like, what does that look like? What does it look like to get into your sensuality to the full being of that? And how are you disconnected, and where is that showing up? So I think it's permission to really explore like this deeper, darker side of me for my next chapter.
Yes, 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 yes. And I love that you mentioned that, because it reminded me of how much you helped me with regard to rage, because I grew up in a house that, the only tolerated emotion was happy. And we were allowed to be sad, but, it had to be really sad, or like something happened on Little House on the Prairie and made us cry sad. Like it had to be either super artificially sad, not related to us, or, you can dip your toe in, because that's what a good pastor's family would do, right? And so rage felt very uncomfortable, very unfamiliar. And in my estimation, because I only knew what I knew, I felt like it was a dip. And I didn't want to dip. I didn't want to go down the emotional scale, because that doesn't feel good either. But the work that we were doing together helped me see that what I was mislabeling as happy was actually powerlessness, which rage is up the emotional scale from powerlessness. So it actually felt better. So even before that property was mine, I was walking on it and I was doing what you were helping me. I was rage walking and I was just, because it's 30 acres of woods. So I was just unleashing, saying out loud the things I was frustrated about. Like, sorry, I'm getting so animated now, but specifically toward the process that my divorce was taking. I had come to a realization like, wait a minute, this divorce looks just like my marriage. I'm waiting in silence, hoping for the best. That's ridiculous. Like I want to complete. It's been 3 years. Like let's I want to put on a new outfit. Come on. So it was that's not the extent of my rage. It got way more colorful than that, but it was such a beautiful, freeing practice that I had no idea that it's like now that's going on my list of offerings. Like, come on out to the Phineas Wright House. We're going to rage walk. We're going to have a bonfire. You can throw all that nonsense and watch it burn. And then we'll pop open the champagne and go swimming in the pond under a full moon or something cool like that. So it really is this beautiful, I have permission to be mad. I have permission to be enraged. Like, that's okay.
Absolutely. And I think when that permission is granted for whether it's rage or grief or like, um, hurt, rejection, whatever resentment, when we can allow ourselves and give ourselves permission to be in that, like, I mean, fully embody it in a safe space, in a container where like it's for a set intentional period, like it moves through us. Like it moves through. When we repress it that's when dis-ease shows up. That's when illness shows up. That's when mental depression, anxiety, that's when those things show up. But like when we fully are present with it and ask it, like it's our inner child, right? Like they want to know what they have something to tell us. And when we actually develop that relationship and we feel it and we allow it and we get knowledge and wisdom from it, that's like where the gold is. Because then, like you said, the happiness is actually happiness. Like the fulfillment is actually fulfillment. It's the shadows where we find the magic. I mean, one of the ways to do it.
Right? And bigger the light, bigger the shadow.
Yeah. And you have to go down. I love this woman's work. Her name's Sabrina Lynn, and I've seen this in other places, but hers was the first image that I saw, and it was a huge, beautiful tree. And like the only way the tree can get that high is when the roots go way down deep into the ground. Like that's like in the darkness, that's where the growth happens, not only, but like you have to have that foundation. So,
yeah, it sustains the visible growth.
yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay, Alex, anything that you want to add to that before you answer the question?
I would love to take a hot moment for rage.
Do it. It's all you, girl. Go.
I think it's such an under-discussed emotional response. First of all, like anger, we're used to hearing, anxiety, we're used to hearing, but we don't really talk about rage a lot. So I like that permission to make rage real. I found the pickleball court to be an amazing rage room. So I don't know if anybody plays pickleball, but there is nothing more gratifying than slamming the living daylights out of a wiffle ball and just feeling that perfect contact. I mean, if you hit a winning shot, that's even better, but it is like chef's kiss. Great answer. I'm sure rage walking is good too, but like, I don't always want to talk about it. And sometimes it seems to be this like physical, beat it out. And sometimes not. I will say, going through, what I went through, it'll be 7 years ago in June. I've always had a regular yoga practice, and my intention was to show up on the mat and beat it out. And I think that's why a lot of people are doing hot yoga, by the way. It's like chaturanga, 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 and we beat it. And you're just compounding, you're not actually releasing. Ooh. And so there are times when you just physically can't beat it out, but I think there are times when you can. And I want to invite you into a pickleball paddle.
Okay.
So that you can do that.
I do have there are several trees that have fallen that I'm going to turn into firewood. So there will be some beating out that doesn't take me off property and away from my chores. I'm down with that too.
100% chopping wood, another great release. And then it's
Yeah.
purposeful to burn. So I'm
Yeah.
really into that. This is such a good question because I real life in real time did the old narrative because I wasn't ready for the new one.
Yeah.
I sent you a new bio last night.
Yeah.
And if you read the old one next to the new one
Mhm.
says nothing about my past as a caregiver and finding healing through
Yep.
yoga and, you
So
know,
good.
kumbaya, namaste, which is fine. I mean, it was a narrative that worked for a really long time, but my new one, my short elevator bio does not have that. I mean, it opens up with passionate storyteller and resilience, master of resilience. And that's what I am stepping into. That's what I embody. The past got me here, and the
Mhm.
caregiver story is very real and it resonates with a lot of people. And I think as a story anecdote, it's powerful and it's not going anywhere. I mean, it is what it is. I can't, I'm not going to rewrite that. It's put me, you know, in this really, you know, kind of sweet spot of, fully processed, ready to share. And I think what I just realized, I think I had arrived, but then you need to be aware that you arrived, is that I've already walked through the fire and I'm out on the other side and I can look back and I can see it, but I don't feel it. And it's almost a year to the date since my book published. And, you know, reflecting on that whole process, we kind of re-engage with the trauma in our physical body. You know, the body keeps the score and, you know, sort of hanging on to all these things in our tissues. And even though we think mentally we've moved past it, our body thinks otherwise. Like we revisit the moment and the physical manifestation of that moment returns, which is why we do things like acupuncture and, you know, talk therapy. If that's your thing, the rage walks, the pickleball, the gardening, and I don't care if you ever roll out a yoga mat, just do something, you know, to move this stuff through the body. And I think there's a really beautiful point that I'm in where I looked back and I'm like, well, that's not me. And that realization and like awareness point is what really motivated me to make a really big business decision. And that is to rebrand what is now Soul Dive Yoga. So Soul Dive Yoga is a business embodiment of my trauma. This is a very shadow side of the business. It's also an incredible community that's given healing and hope to a lot of people out there. But what it was it was like my professional answer to like, well, I'm going to share what I've gone through and help people. Well, I did that, but the name and when it was founded and why it was founded is so rooted in me and my history and my traumatic moment that the growth of that business is energetically stunted. And I don't think you come to that awareness without doing a heck of a lot of work in Elizabeth's department with the shadows and the understanding of like what really comes up. But it was a bit of a, you know, to some, it might be like, well, man, that's a tough pill to swallow. That's your baby. And I'm like, the business is never your baby. That's not it. And understanding that has to go. It has to be in the past. The book was it, period. Slam laptop shut and scene, you know, was like, that is the end of that era. And I can talk about it when I speak to other people, right? And make it relatable and an anecdote or a slight part of the narrative, but it's not the defining. So by December 30th, I don't know when this is going to air or if I'm going to be outed now in my own community because my people don't even fully know the full strategy behind it. But this business is getting fully dissolved. It's not enough to rebrand. It has to go. It has to burn.
Love
It's
it.
another, I'm getting chills talking about
Me
it.
too.
It's another burn period of all well and good. Glad you got your sea legs under you as an author and a speaker, but now it's got to go. And now the real work kicks in. It's not
the next work.
The next work, but bigger work.
Yeah.
The bigger work.
Of course.
So with that comes, you know, a very much expanded mission. The new business is called The Studio.
Love it.
Stepping away from yoga and stepping into movement, art, and events. So we now double as an art gallery, which is a huge opportunity for a revenue stream. The movement will always be present. The movement will look different. It will be rooted in yoga, but not defined. And then the third avenue is events. And I think all under this whole, you know, like umbrella of community. That's why people create these spaces so that people have a place to go when they're feeling the feels. I always say that the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. I can't do anything with indifference. I can do something with hate.
Yep.
That's a place where you can move from. And I became very indifferent to Soul Dive Yoga because it doesn't align with me anymore. It's like it has no place in my body, and you can't step up as a leader if you don't embody the gospel that you're preaching from. So we're in the really early phases now. It's going to be kind of a long rollout period, but I completely give myself permission to thrive. And I wrote it down as you said it. That's why I looked up and I'm like, are you in my head?
Oh, I love it.
And I give myself permission to be rich
Yeah.
and really
Right.
wealthy, monetarily wealthy. And I think
Yeah.
there is this unspoken narrative about the business of yoga that you're supposed to be poor and handed out for free. And that ain't me.
Right.
And give myself permission to live and to be loved. And so I think getting out of that old, like the hamster wheel of whatever cycle that was, it closed. I kind of knew it closed. And then I became really aware it closed and started to embody this future version of, this entrepreneurial leader, visionary CEO, like owning a yoga studio and being the CEO of a brand are two
Yep.
completely different energetic responses in the body.
Yep. Yep. I'm obsessed. I love all of it. I love this transition from speaking from a wound to speaking from a scar. And you have this, of course, your story is still your story, and you get to share that in ways that, like you said, that resonate with people, but it comes from question two, not from, hi, I'm Alex and da 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 da, or, like the lead into a TED talk, which of course that's a hook. You wanted, that still makes sense or whatever, as long as it does. But it's this transition. None of my story, of course, when someone asks me, how long have you lived here? Or, then I can say, oh, I grew up in California, but I always wanted to be here. Or when someone sees that my daughter's 11 and I'm not 35 or whatever, and she's Chinese and I'm not, there are definite questions that are an invitation to go back to that story and share that narrative, because of course those were all the cooperative components that brought me to where I am now. But I also love what you said about the owner of a yoga studio and the CEO of this brand is different. And I feel the same way. I am building an empire here. So it's a different energetic, and I don't wait in silence hoping for the best. It doesn't matter if that's been my practice with this particular person. It is no longer my practice.
Well, the waiting is complacent. And
That's right.
complacency to me is this direct line to death. That's
Right.
it.
Well,
Sitting
anything we're
idle.
tolerating, we're choosing.
Yep. And there's, the narrative that has flipped for me is really defining myself as this master of resilience feels like the right alignment because I did it, and we all have it. I mean, we're all born into the Super Bowl with no padding and no playbook and told to survive.
Yeah.
As teeny tiny little things. I mean, that's absurd when you think about it. Like the human experience is completely absurd that we're just like, okay, good luck, but we are given a lot of intuition, and we're given a lot of tools along the way that ease, and whether it comes intuitively or we hire somebody to coach us through it, or a healthy combination of both. I mean, that is at our fingertips to keep going and keep growing. So complacency really has no room at my table, never has. The thing about resilience that I like so much is that it's already there. So I'm not talking about something that the individual needs to go out and download into their body. They were born with it, which is a leg up, but they forgot how to use it. And so there is this process, there's a method to the resilience that is going to come out from me. I'm finally going to do a course.
Good job.
And it's like, let's help people get back up. Because if you've decided you're not complacent and you're out there living, if you're a creator, I don't care if you're punching the clock at an accounting firm or you've been a serial entrepreneur like I have, you're going to fail at some point. and you're going to fall down, you're going to falter, or the 2x4 moment's going to hit, the divorce is going to come out of nowhere, the death is going to come out of left field. I mean, you're going to have these moments and you're going to fall down, and you need to be able to get back up because there's too much out there to live and experience. There are too many gifts for you to give to stay down. And we can't do it without resilience.
Elizabeth, what do you have in response?
Yeah, no, I love that. I love I was writing like the complacency thing because I see that, and you know, full transparency, there's a few areas in my life where complacency is at my table. And I love when you were like, complacency has no room at my table. And I understand like that part, right? Like it's and right, like we get to change the narrative. And I think that the resiliency piece um is so true. Like when you're saying that's not something that you need to learn to get, it's within us. We're born with that, and to like nurture and grow and awaken and be aware of it, right? Like awareness is the first point of anything. So like to know and to trust that. And I think actually part of like the work is learning for people that don't naturally have this, like to trust themselves, right? Like to trust, we can trust ourselves. And I think that's also where the resiliency comes. I kind of think those go a little bit hand in hand. And I think that that's such a beautiful piece. That really resonated when you're bringing up resiliency. So cool. I'm looking forward to your course and that.
Great. And I think in that with the resiliency and the trust, there are so many pieces to that. There's alignment, there's
Absolutely.
intention, it's all of these practices that are coming together we've picked up all sorts of little flowers we're putting in our basket, all these tools in our toolkit. And then we come to this moment in time, whether it's because of a transition or because of a 2x4 or a decision. We opened up the earlier session with this knowing that freedom is a decision away. We are the ones that are granting ourselves permission to have the life that we want to have. Like all of it, it's all completely self-absorbed in the most necessary, healthy way to embody our desires, what we want, how we're going to be in contribution, how we are going to be in service to the world and to ourselves, to our highest and best. It all needs each other. That table, sometimes it has a leaf in it and lots more chairs from other rooms because there are a lot of elements that need to be there. But I love permission to not hold space for the people at the table that are not in service. And if complacency is one of them, which that's a brilliant one, where I would have said, rage, you don't have a place here because that's not pretty and it's off brand. And now rage gets to be there because, like you said earlier, Elizabeth, it moves through. When we allow ourselves to feel these feelings, have these experiences, be present for them, hold space for ourselves, it's not going to take us out for a decade. It's the suppressing them that takes us out.
I don't think it's bad to open up a seat at the table for the things that we don't like. I think
Agreed.
you need to open up the chair and have complacency sit down for a little bit. We can really see what that looks like and how it feels when it shows up. And it's a more empowering decision to say, okay, you can move on now.
Right.
And the same goes for rage or any of the kind of shadow emotions or feelings. If you don't pull out the chair and sit with it for a second, then maybe you don't really know, and it's okay to take a beat. Where I think it's a slippery slope is like when you start to default into those, and it becomes very victim and very woe is me, and it's like, okay, I don't think we need to just put our big girl panties on and get over it. I think we just need to start to move through it. And that's where, people are asking, well, what kind of people do you talk to? I'm like, I like the people who are like before the beginning, who maybe the first time they hear from me, they don't even know that they need to be aware of the things that I'm talking about. Like if I'm the wake up call, that's great. That's a great room. People who already have practices, this might be a little bit elementary, but for those who don't understand the value of a quick walk around the block daily, we're talking
Mhm.
15-minute time investment most. I want to talk to those people a little bit because complacency is occupying their entire living room, not just the table. There's a lot of obligatory living where I have to do this because I had kids, I'm supposed to be a slave to them. Because I have a husband, I am supposed to devote every waking moment to his needs. I mean, he's not doing that because he's not wired that way. Maybe
Right.
we are a little bit more, but it's just making this effort to serve, to preserve, like if you break down preserve and preserve self. Otherwise you're right. And I love that you use dis-ease because I use it that way too. I mean, when we don't do that and we let these feelings of complacency and resentment and even rage go unattended to or without eye contact, I mean, the table really gives us a chance to stare it in the face a little bit and take back our power, then the dis-ease will come in. And that's ugly. We don't want it. It's like, it's the cancer. It's the debilitating terminal illnesses, life altering in ways. And I'm not a doctor, but I know that to be true.
Elizabeth, anything you'd like to say?
I'm loving this conversation, first of all. And yeah, no, I agree. I think that there is we learn from everything, right? Like even complacency. Like and I love that you put that in there because every single thing is an opportunity for growth, right? Like whatever is there is an opportunity for us to find out like why it's there and what it has to show us. And yeah, I mean, obviously, Alex, like you said, it's the well, and Wendy, you said this too. When we allow the things to move through us and they don't stay in us, it's really when like that's the default. And I think that going back a little bit to our conversation, but it's still relevant, I think, with what Alex is talking about too in the beginning of working with people in the beginning who may not even know, like, yes, taking the walk around the block or like breathing, right? Like that's a fundamental thing that can help all of us. That when our nervous systems are wired for a certain thing, like we automatically go there. And so growing in when we're complacent, we don't have to experience the uncomfortable. I mean, we might be super uncomfortable, but that's like a discomfort that we know, right? The complacency is like masking the discomfort that we know, so it's fine. But when we grow, and this may not be everybody's thought process or belief for myself, when I'm growing, it's super discomfort. Like I am uncomfortable. So one of the things that I've had to do is really like grow my level of tolerance for discomfort. And when I was going through the conscious uncoupling program, Catherine Woodward Thomas would talk about this consistently, like growing our tolerance for discomfort, because when we're doing new things, like our body and our nervous system, it's not going to feel good, right? Let me put it this way. There's a very strong possibility it may not feel good. I don't want to, yes, words are spells. So like, I don't want to like claim that for anybody, but like, we will also move through that, right? So there's also the knowing that the growth, the bridging period can feel really uncomfortable because our nervous systems aren't used to that. And we're rewiring and we're doing new, like, forming new neural pathways and new thoughts and new beliefs. Like that takes a minute. Like, and that takes a minute for our bodies. So also just to like give ourselves the time to allow for that. And I think for me personally, that is like been one of the biggest learning curves for me because Wendy, how happiness was the emotion allowed in your house, like avoiding because of my, old story that there was so much discomfort and so much dysfunction and so much chaos. Like I would do anything to avoid that. So like allowing those things, but from an observing and a wise place where I'm the adult now and I can hold those places and hold those things. I think that that's part of the work within what we're all talking about.
I love that
That's-
the rewiring of the new thoughts. And it's so powerful for people to understand that and getting more comfortable with being uncomfortable. I mean, as humans, we're innately wired for life. Like that's, again, we're born with it. We are born to survive, and we start learning how to survive from day one. And we're wired for that. We're not wired for death. And when you look at death as any ending, you have to say no before you say yes. You have to free up the space before you can take something else on. You can't get in the new relationship while you still got the old one on life support. It doesn't work that way. You can try, it's going to go up in flames 100% of the time. Can't get the new job if you're working 80 hours a job at the existing job. And this is where I don't think people fully get it. They don't accept it, is there needs to be this like space clearing. So when we talk about growing or starting anything new, starting over is a soulful act of bravery. And I'll say it over and over. I mean, any new beginning is brave because of this very topic. We're not wired to hold that uncomfortable space because we've been taught to feel good. We've been taught to survive in this like life thread. But when we choose the death, which is ultimately this pathway to freedom, we have to choose to say, I'm going to let go of that thing, my marriage, my job, my house, my dog. I had to make a choice to free up that space in order to experience the freedom. It's a lot of discomfort.
Yeah.
When you go through that, sort of transition period. But it's very powerful when you make that choice and begin to arrive. Yeah, we're not wired for death. And I think the most important element, in this resilience course that I've built is surrender and the letting go. Because we grip what we know, we grip the comfort, and it's easy to default back into that. I can only assume in going through some uncoupling, exercise 100 times over, you'd want to go back to what you knew, even though your brain knows better. You have to make the choice over and over and over every day.
Yeah.
But I waited a really long time to find the love of my life, and so I am not going to go through that uncoupling situation. It's just not. That is not for me. That's not at my table either.
Right? And we get to decide. Go ahead, Elizabeth.
No, I was just kind of going, and this is a whole different subject, but right, like you're 39 and like you just said you waited and you found this. There's such a beauty in that, right? Because society wise, like at 19 or 20, people are like conditioned to get married and you start this. And I think there's not an intention always, right? Like of do you even know yourself? Do you even like, are you like, who should get married at 20? I mean, it's a viable question. This is very controversial, not where we're going right now, but like, I think it's perfect. And I think one of the reasons that think it's wonderful when people do wait till later is because you have been through life and you do know yourself and like you are ready. And most likely you aren't going to uncouple because of those reasons, So, I mean, I just get a lot of people who are like, I met him when I was 19 and 20 and we did this life, but I'm a totally different person than I was when I was now. That is so often the story because it's true. It's true.
Right. And it would be great if they were also not the same person.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be, I'm not the same person on Thursday afternoons than I was on Thursday morning if I have 5 podcast interviews. So it's just this commitment to yourself to grow, to expand, permission to grow, permission to evolve, permission to encourage my partner to also evolve. And, hopefully we're evolving together. But if we're not, permission to course correct, permission to complete, permission to free both of us through one courageous conversation. Like, I don't think everyone should get divorced. I 100% think I should. So it's not that I'm saying anyone who's unhappy, well, you got to leave that guy because it's not that. It's please, please, please fall in love with yourself. Oh my gosh, just adore you, become obsessed with yourself in the knowing of yourself, the trusting of yourself. That's attractive. It's not repelling someone else when you are focused on what's going on. It's hot. Like the more work you do, if you are in a relationship that you're going to exit, Like you're just making yourself more attractive to this person. Like that's what we started to experience. And I still had to make a decision. I love that for you. Great. We're already complete, but this is the direction we're going. So it's just so much of permission to live my best life and permission to allow you to live yours, whatever that looks like, and have it not throw me off track because I'm focusing so much on what someone else is doing or not doing or doing it wrong.
Absolutely.
If you don't have something to add to that, I have a question for you, Elizabeth, about so this shadow work, this invitation to explore the less comfortable, less practiced emotions. Because we talk about this often because I like to feel good and that's the trajectory I'm on. And I like really don't see any benefit in any of that until I do, right? And you've been so helpful for that with that. So in your work or in your personal experience, how do you determine what requires a deeper dive and what requires a release and complete?
Such a great question. So deeper dives, I believe, show up repeatedly. So
Mm,
if I'm having an experience that keeps on showing up and it doesn't feel good,
mhm,
like I have to be like, okay, what am I believing? Like, because if everything's a mirror, or I believe everything's a mirror or a projection. So, what am I missing? What do I need to look at? And so then that's when I look at my thoughts. Well, then what are my fears around that? What are the beliefs that I have around it? What is like, what do I need to rewire? What do I need to do? Um, and then going deeper. So that's generally what for me, or if I have a client, so patterns, repeated things that are coming up. So we have things that are long-term patterns, and then we have things that we're learning now that are most likely long-term patterns, but like they're showing up like kind of week after week or in a book or in a song or in a movie, and like you're
mm,
recognizing it. And then um okay, silly example, but like my dogs wouldn't sit this morning when I was putting their leashes on and I got frustrated. I mean, like, I'm like, okay, I'm obviously frustrated about something. I'm gonna let that frustration move through me. What am I? Okay, I'm not taking the time. I'm rushing and that doesn't feel good. So I need to shift my mindset. I have plenty of time and that's gonna shift my vibration. So I guess it's kind of like those things of
mm.
um, it's not that I don't feel irritated. It's just that when that comes up, is it just a momentary shift of what I'm thinking? Like, what am I thinking about that's causing, if our thoughts cause our emotions, what am I thinking about that's that? Does that
It
help?
does. Thank you. And the reason that I ask is just two things, something that I've heard a few times said to me, like a suggestion. You really need to grieve. You really need to grieve not ever being pregnant, not ever, or my dad dying, my divorce. You really need to grieve. Like someone else's assessment that's not my coach or my mom or my child. Like that you really need to grieve. And that also, one of my very practiced narrative that is not serving me is that I used to have a belief that everybody else knew how to do something and I was the only one who didn't. And so I was doing it wrong. And I would had a fear that I was going to do it wrong and that everyone was going to go, oh my gosh, don't you know? This is how it's done. So you should grieve or you really need to grieve. And the experience of living through these situations that might have prompted grief in other people, but I'm I have I have never been as sad as my story is. Like for all of those years of wanting to be a mom, and then I would think like, oh my gosh, like that's so sad. I'm the Sunday school teacher who's barren, and like that's a sad story, and I was not that sad. And so I don't think, I mean, not to turn this into my therapy session, but I really do not believe that I'm operating from a place of denial or complacency or, refusal to see, like, I'm not going to look at that because that will be too painful. It's like I don't feel a call or a leading to dig that up. Am I doing it wrong?
No, I mean,
Okay, good.
I mean,
Okay,
right, like
okay,
everybody.
and we're done. No, I'm just kidding.
Excellent. No, just and real quick, I mean,
No, you don't have to be quick.
no, but first of all, it's never my place or anybody else's place to tell somebody else what they should or shouldn't be doing or should or shouldn't be feeling, right? Like, I mean, we all are women who work with other women and we can guide or we can like share, but I mean, you know you. I mean, nobody will know you better than you know you. And I also hold a belief that we're all on different journeys. I believe we have different lifetimes. And so our consciousness is different throughout our different journeys. And I mean, I don't know you, Wendy, in this way, but what I would guess is that your consciousness is just different. I mean, so many of the things that we're conditioned for in society. I was just talking to a client that I have this morning who's going through the death of her dad. He's in the process of it. And it is so often in our society, we're conditioned that death is so bad and negative and all these different things where it's honestly a natural part of life. That doesn't mean that it's not sad. It doesn't mean that we don't have grief around it. It doesn't mean that there aren't tragic ways in which death happens. But on your level of consciousness, and grief, whether it was death or loss or being your barren Sunday school teacher until beautiful Amelia came to you. Like there's just a knowing. I just think from what I know of you, you just had this knowing and like that's just a consciousness level. And I think people are plugged into certain society or familial or religious things, and until you know different, they don't know different, but their consciousness may just not be there, or maybe they're wired to feel these different emotions. There's so many different angles to look at that. I think you're doing it exactly how is right for Wendy Harrop, and knowing you are very conscious, you are very aware, like, and I also think when we're living through, and Alex, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, but I mean, like, we had 5 of our closest family members die within like 4 years. Like when you're living through that, I mean there is a sense of like I had 2 babies. Like there is a sense of like compartmentalizing, but I was very present because death is very, very important to me. I think death is one of the most beautiful things that I have witnessed in my life, of watching the people I love and being with them when they have died. I was present for that. Like there was emotion in that moment. So I didn't have grief that went on for forever. And so it again comes to me. Now, granted, I think like last year, and Alex, I don't know how this was with your previous boyfriend. Like I had more grief in like a half hour around my mom than I had like at any other time. So I think it can hit us at different times. I think but when you're present in the moment, you're also aware and you're in it. Like you can be doing your work, you can be doing the grieving. So
That makes sense. And I appreciate that. So I would say I grieved my marriage the 9 months that I called sitting in the question of it. So when I came into alignment and had my courageous conversation, it was complete already for me. Okay. Alex, I would love to hear your thoughts.
I think the one word, and I think all the thoughts that you guys have shared are beautiful and perfect. And the one word that I would add is acceptance. And I think the reason why it was very off-putting for you to hear that you should be doing this or should be doing that, which, by the way, the word should just be removed from
Right.
everybody's vocabulary.
Yes, please.
because-
Permission to remove the word
Yeah.
should.
Is because you accepted what is and what was true for you in the moment. And that's nobody else's business. And that's the most powerful and precious gift you can give to yourself is the acceptance. It's letting you off the hook for the expectation. It's letting, all the things that society would impose upon you be totally irrelevant because you've accepted what's the truth today. Could be a different truth tomorrow, could be a different truth in a few hours, but that acceptance, I do think lives on a more subconscious level,
Mm.
but I think you have it very consciously.
Yes,
And
received.
you just like, it's okay. Yeah, this is it. I'm the Barron Sunday school teacher and it is what it is. And other people's reaction to that, first of all, it should be no business of our own. It's their issue. And that's very much a mirror moment for them to say, if that affects them, to have this, a woe is me moment toward you.
Mhm.
Well, I don't want pity. And
Right. I'll take your baby, but I don't want your pity.
I'll take your baby, but I don't want your pity.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that lands,
Like,
really
give me something I want.
totally. I'm not asking for that. I don't need you to feel
Right.
bad for me. Like, take that somewhere else. What we need in those moments is empowerment and permission. And I'll tell you, the most powerful moment of empowerment for me came, my fiance was diagnosed on my birthday. You don't get let out of the hospital when you have something like that go on. You're there, you biopsy, you figure out, a couple initial pieces of information. But after a few days, we went home. And a couple days after that, I went back to yoga. And I walk in the studio and the teacher looks at me and goes crazy over my ring, which, by the way, was the most impressive and beautiful piece of jewelry I've ever seen. And it was mine and I miss it. There we go. And I started crying. She's like, oh my gosh, you're engaged. And I was like, he's dying. And I just broke down. And she said, she never hugged me. She didn't touch me. She didn't, their little girl me. She's like, look, I'm really glad you're here. And I want you to know that this is your home, whether you come in here and flop around and cry like Free Willy, or you do every move. This is where you need to be. I give you permission to show up in any way, shape, or form, to simply be. And those are my words, not hers, but those words inspired the mission of Soul Dive Yoga. And that's why I opened a space where people could show up in any way, shape, or form to simply be, because you can't show up anywhere else without some type of expectation. And those expectations aren't all bad, by the way. There should be expectations in the workplace and professional relationships and personal dynamics. I mean, we thrive, I think, as humans with some structure and a sandbox.
Right.
Too much freedom, we don't know what to do with that. We need a little bit of a corral, some people more than others. But what happened for me in that moment was I could show up in any way I was. And I didn't know how I was going to be. This was uncharted territory for me. I didn't understand what was happening. I understood he was sick. I refused to admit or accept how dire it was. It's like, oh, if there's a 0.01% chance he's going to live, I'm the woman for the job, because I can beat it out of him.
Yeah.
And I can find the miracle, or I'm tenacious. And
Mhm.
I really confused resilience with tenacity, in that moment. And I applied a lot of toughness, which was what I was taught to do. I was a business owner at the age of 25, and I was told to suit up and get in the room and be with the men and talk louder and be like Moses slapping the staff on the rock so that people start to pay attention. There was no soft, gentle, surrender in my existence or leadership. So if the lines, which they very much were blurred between my personal and professional lives, I mean, down to the fact that I was raising money and publicizing a lot in the cancer world, and he was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. I knew what personalized medicine meant. I knew what they were looking for when they biopsied. I knew what biomarkers meant so that I could go research. I mean, I was very prepared for the nitty gritty of the clinical side of what this diagnosis meant. I was not prepared to sit with the man I love the most and say, I know it's bad, and I'm going to be with you in the honesty of how scary and uncomfortable and uncertain our future is. I wasn't with him in the ring. I was over here trying to save. And that was, a mistake that I've had to come to terms with or learn from so that in the future I can be the partner and not the warden. Because a lot of that caregiving shows up like a jail warden. You can do this, you can't do that. You can eat this, you can't eat that. We're going here, make you crazy. And it requires an advocate when somebody is sick and there's, life or death on the line. But I left the relationship and took over that role because I was very, very comfortable in that, powerful CEO role. I know that role well. I didn't know at the time, the softer side of accepting death.
Yeah.
I couldn't accept it. And the biggest thing that was dying wasn't just his life, the life I was forcing for myself. I've wanted to be married since I was a kid. I wanted my career to be a Victoria's Secret model.
Right.
That's what I wanted. I would sit in my mother's closet and I would put her pearls around my neck at age 5 and read Better Homes and Gardens magazine, look at it, and just want to be a wife and then a mom.
Yeah.
Well, things turned out a little bit differently, but it was, and I would do everything in my power to force it. Any relationship I could try to cram into that box and they all went up in smoke. And this one went up in smoke, perhaps for different reasons. It was the closest I've ever been to assume the role of wife. But in hindsight, it was the wrong relationship and probably wouldn't have ended well anyway. And it was that complete sacrifice to who I was. I let go of who I was. I put my company on ice. I put my ambitions and visions and entire hopes and dreams on hold to care for him. And both can coexist, but I didn't know how. I didn't have that code at the time. And so that was the big piece of surrender, was letting go of wife, mother, business owner, Chicago, friend circles, professional networks, my first business, all of it.
Yeah.
All of it had to go because that was not who I was supposed to be.
Yeah. Wow.
So
And
all those years
permission-
later, I moved
Yeah.
across the country.
Right?
And I started over. And I don't think we're ever too old to pivot. I don't think it's ever the wrong time to reinvent. And it doesn't have to be this dramatic too, by the way. I mean, I tell people, please don't make it this dramatic. Please don't be stubborn and deaf, dumb, and blind to your own reality that it takes 5 years for you to figure it out. That's my path. That definitely shouldn't be anybody else's.
Yeah. And permission to not self-abandon.
Always. Always. There is this intersection where selfless acts can exist with self-service.
Yes. Yes. And it takes a calibration to your alignment, not to the situation or not to the opinion or not to anything outside of you.
The opinion that hit real hard was that, oh, well, you should just get married right away then.
So what? So
why?
You can have the flag, like what?
It was
because that makes a better book. Like what?
It was tough. So I did some people. I am not a people pleaser. I mean, I don't.
Good for you.
I definitely don't have that. I mean, I could be a little bit more. I think it would actually be great if I could work a little bit of that in to the DNA. But I did have a people pleaser moment, and I threw an engagement party that looked like a wedding. I wore a very bridal outfit, and it was a very, very sweet moment in a lot of ways for him and I. I mean, we kind of we had a moment. The room was totally divided. There was no it was very confusing, like how it all showed up. And I'll just never forget looking at it and saying this is as close as we're ever going to get to a wedding. And I asked for records and not China because I'm like, what am I going to do? Send it back?
Yeah.
We do all the stuff. And so it's having to choose, I became very aware that I had to choose to either stay and go down, let that big, beautiful ring be the anchor that sunk me in Lake Michigan, or choose to put my own life mask on first and set myself free, which meant walking away from a relationship, not only any relationship, but one where the other person has this terminal diagnosis.
Alex,
Go
can I ask you a question? And I realize our time, but I haven't read your book, which I absolutely want to. Did you leave the relationship before he passed or after he passed?
I left the relationship 6 months after he was diagnosed. So I was a caregiver for 6 months. The moment that really shifted it, it was the caregiving was like a 24/7 requirement.
Yeah.
It was so out of my depths, and I asked for help.
Yeah.
And when I asked for help, the help that was sent was not the person I asked for. It
Right.
was a different person. And that really like we took a hard left. And I think in hindsight, it was probably the right path, but it felt more abrupt or abrasive than I think it needed to be.
Mm.
And within a couple of days, he was back living with his family. And so we never really had the conversation that, okay, we're not going to get married. How do we move forward? There was no conscious uncoupling at the table.
Mm.
It was a very dramatic shift to where, my parents helped me pack his things up as if he had died, but he didn't. He just
Yeah.
relocated. And so he lived another 4 years after he was diagnosed. The first 2 years were horrible. And I don't fault him or his family for being, upset with me, and in that, how it was handled. I mean, it was like somebody was screaming, could somebody please be the adult in the room?
Yeah.
And nobody had the capacity to do it because it was too tragic. But after that initial period of like that sort of like healed, I think like time was the only thing that could be sprinkled in. And I'm very grateful that we got it. We aligned.
Mm.
So we had plenty of moments, never enough, but plenty of moments to just at least get back to loving territory.
Mm.
So there were lots of visits where I would take him they were largely supervised. But, and I was like, remember who kept him alive for 6 months, everybody.
Right.
But, that's okay. And I saw him a couple months before he died, but I was not with him when he passed, which is okay. However, I don't want to spoil it. And please do read the book because
We
I
will
found
read the book, of
some
course.
fun with what happens next, because he died and he came back
Oh,
to Soul Dive Yoga.
amazing.
So
Um,
I opened a new business 2 weeks after he passed. Actually, no, I opened a new business. I learned 2 weeks after I opened that he had passed, but he had passed on the day that I was given possession to the space. So like the key handoff, that was the day that he died. And a week or so after that, all these dots start to connect that he was back, and I just had a few dates with my dead fiance. It was wild. And it culminated with permission to
wow.
move on.
Yeah.
He needed to know that I was okay.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
It's a cool part of the story.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Permission to write our own stories. It's so good. I love that. I love your generosity in sharing that. Thank you so much. I love that anybody who reads that or listens to that gets to have whatever experience they have with that information, and it affects your experience in no way. And I love that.
I will say, I'm biased. I think this book is great. It's raw, it's honest, it's very candid and vulnerable. It's a reflection of how I communicate.
Sure.
It is like sharing a glass of wine with your best friend in your living room. It's
Yeah.
very unfiltered. It's not an overshare. I really think there was a boundary, and I held it. I shared enough that you get the point, but it's not a book about death and dying.
Yeah.
And I want to say that because people are like, man, I don't really want to be sad right now. I'm like, amen. Who wants to be sad? Who chooses that?
Right.
It's like, look, if you know me, you're going to be gut punched by the first chapter, but you know how it ends. There
Yeah.
are no leads buried. So just read it and then keep going, and you're going to start laughing very soon. There's a lot of humor and there's a lot of lightness and kind of levity of the situation. I can be a bit self-deprecating. That's definitely there. But whether it's the book or, what I do as a speaker, the message is not, oh, I'm going to share this woe is me lifetime movie story of loss. I think it's very much in the resilience thread where we can talk about that. But also, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 25, and I have a massive business story and sort of mission to share in that thread too. So it's been an interesting evolution of defining who I am without getting into that, well, I'm this and I'm this and I'm this and I'm this,
Exactly.
and not being too hogtied to one, thread versus another. So it's an ongoing process. I've not formally put out the new language, the new bio, as far as I've gotten at this point.
Oh, it's going to keep updating, so don't worry. It's
Totally.
just the next bio.
Exactly.
Ladies, I have loved this conversation. Thank you so much. As always, with time with you, it feels too short. So thank you for your generosity. Thank you for your presence. I treasure you. Is there anything that you want to say in closing? Let people know where they can find and follow you. I will follow it up with emails and all of that, but just in case. Elizabeth, will you start, please?
Thank you so much for having us, Wendy. It's been great, Alex. I've loved hearing your story and getting to talk with you. This has just been a beautiful way to spend an afternoon. My Instagram is Sacred Freedom for Her. My website's Sacred Freedom for Life. So that's how you can find me.
Perfect. Thank you. Alex?
Thank you, Elizabeth. It was such a delight to meet you and hear more about your work. And Wendy, as always, such a pleasure.
I love you.
You can find me at alexsabag.com or on Instagram at alexsabag. I do put out a weekly Into the Deep with Alex. It's my poetic wisdom drop gift to you. It is free, and you can drop your email in on my website and sign up for my newsletter.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was amazing.